Thank you. It's time now to have our panel discussion, which will be moderated, entitled Green Energy Challenges and Benefits. The discussion will be moderated by Captain Rohit Tandon. He's the General Manager of Fleet Management. And on the panel, we'll have Mr. Frank Paleokrassas, who is the Head of Data Governance and Analytics at Bernard Schulte. Mr. Michalis Pouris, Head of Health, Safety, Quality and Environment Department at Intership Navigation. Mr. Demetres Arnes, you've just been listening to. He's the Managing Principal Research Engineer, Digital Engineering, ABS. And Dr. Elias Yfantis, who is a Senior Scientist at the Marine and Offshore Science and Technology Center at the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, CMMI. And I hope your moderator will introduce once again the gentlemen so you know who is who on the panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So our presentation today is dedicated to decarbonization and green energy. So as we move on to the program, it is a time to interact. But before we do that, let me ask you all, how many of you feel that there is a climate change in past 3 to 4 years? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, okay. And now, if I ask you, how many of you feel, and you can feel really, that there is a electricity bills raised and there is a hole in your pocket? Oh, again, once again. Fair enough. So I will not ask any more raise hand, but I'm sure because of all this climate change happening, we all are doing something or the other in a small way or a big way towards the sustainable energy to use in our daily life, in our day-to-day life, right? Embracing green energy is no longer an option. It is the only way to going forward. And we all need to adopt, and we need to be ready for that. As we struggle for our daily economy crisis which is happening around the world, the climate change which is happening around the world, I would say that people are looking us as business leaders and the business organizations to take the lead. And shipping industry is the engine that drives 90% of the trade worldwide. And we hold a very great opportunity in the sector of energy. So, standing here, I recall almost 10 years back when 2013, last Maritime, 10 years back, the Maritime Cyprus which we did, we were talking about the data collections, the energy efficiency, voluntary basis. And today, 2022, you can see we are all talking about deadlines. The things are rapidly changing. Things are being pushed quite fast on us, and the reason we all know. I remember 2013 when we started as in FML, we achieved one of the first ISO 50000 certification on the voluntary basis. But today, you look at EXI, you look at SEMP, you look at CIA, whichever you name it, is all have deadlines. So voluntary basis moved to mandatory for last 5 years' time. So it is quite evident that we need to take action on this. So today, as we all together will be dive deeper into the world of green energy, and we'll talk about the challenges that we are facing to adopt these changes and the benefits which will entail in this. So we shall talk about decarbonization targets 2030-2050 and understand the impact which will become to our world in shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Captain Rohit Tandon. I am from FML Ship Management, Fleet Management Cyprus, holding general manager positions, have been involved in all the marine side of FML as a leading company having more than 650 ships worldwide, second largest. And I personally have been taking interest in taking initiatives towards the adapting green energy. And that was the reason that we, 2012, we were one of the first for ISO 50000. And today we have our esteemed panelist, which will bring more insight to us and the unique perspective for today's topic. Starting from Mr. Frank Paleokrassas. He is a head of data governance and analytics at Schulte Ship Management, a leading company. He has been very actively involved in the decarbonization of the company, which we have seen in the presentation. He rose from various rank to technical manager, and now he is heading the data analyst of a big company, Schulte. So let us welcome Mr. Frank with a round of applause, please. Next, we have Michalis Pouris. He is heading the QHSE department of Intership navigation. He is also being involved in many other posts. He is a DPA, CSO, DPO, you name it, is all with him. He has been involved actively for the environmental performance of the company, which is again big company. So let's give a big round of applause to him as well. Next to him we have Demetres. He is a principal research engineer for digital engineering at ABS. We have seen his presentation, excellent presentation by him. He is in charge in ABS for model-based hybrid electric marine solutions. He is also representing Greek representation at ISO for smart and autonomous shipping. So please give a big round of applause. Last but not the least, we have with us very senior person, Mr. Elias Yfantis. He is a professor in many universities, including Hellenic Naval Academy, University of Nicosia. He is a senior scientist at CMMI. He has been involved in various research activities, including the alternative fuels. His also main focus has been in marine propulsions and auxiliary engines. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you for all the clapping, first of all. It has been definitely added positive energy in the room and to our panelists. Let's dive directly inside the topic now. I will start with Mr. Arnes. So, Demetres, the technology that could change the maritime industry totally are pouring in all the directions. So let me begin with asking you, what do you think are some distinctive benefits that modern tools can offer to help us meet the decarbonization targets?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I guess, okay. So, managing complexity is an ongoing challenge for marine industry, and it's going to be tougher to address it. The difference, the gap between the technology now required to optimize the efficiency on board and to address these targets that IMO has set for us will be smart, will be taking decisions on a very different points and try to find the optimum. And on the other hand, the younger seafarers will be called on board to trust these decisions and identify when they are not good enough and take action. So the gap of complexity will be a huge challenge, and here is how we should start addressing that. We should start by bridging that gap, understanding how automation takes decisions and how the seafarer is interfacing with the automation. Human-machine interface will be critical, even if we consider, the trends of the marine industry now for providing hardware as a service, right? No responsibilities from the seafarer on the maintenance part. The vendor may take all that responsibility. Even then, seafarer needs to be having the oversight. Should be the first line of defense. So, training with any possible mean and bridging that gap between seafarers and automation and increased complexity is, I think, for me personally, the number one challenge and the tools required for addressing what's coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arnes. Shifting to green energy will have a huge impact on the industry. So my question will be to Mr. Frank Paleokrassas. In your opinion, are there some ways to make this impact more bearable, especially when we talk about the older tonnage?
Yes, thank you. So, as I already showed you all in the presentation, for us as a ship manager, the solution is investing in analytics ultimately, and the way that we have accounted for older tonnage is that the system that we have built is based on manual input and, more precisely, on whatever equipment the ship already has installed on board. There is an unfortunate, I find at least, tendency nowadays to push everything towards adding sensors, adding telemetry, doing retrofits. The reality of the situation is that you can monitor any ship rather well just with the equipment that it already has on board and using manual input, provide that you have an analytics tool that can account for let's say the problems that you typically associate with manual input on the data quality side, for example. But going beyond that, I have to say that on the ship owning side, it is a very confusing picture that we have nowadays. So as owners right now, we've basically made a decision to not proceed with any new building orders for the time being, precisely because the future of fuels is so ill-defined and unknown. There are so many options, if you want. I was at a conference in Rotterdam last week, and 3 different presenters, one of them even from the European Commission, presented the possible mix of fuels, possibly available fuels. I'm sure a few of you have seen it. It's basically a list of the available fuels with their pros and their cons. One was from the Maersk McKinsey Center for Decarbonization, and the other one was from the European Commission. I cannot remember who the third one was. What I found extraordinary is that these 3 different presentations showed a different list of fuels. So even among the presenters, we could not have a full list of the available options. So right now, making any investment, a long-term investment that a ship will be in the water for 30 years maybe, is pretty much impossible. So.
Oh, thank you, Frank Paleokrassas. Now my next question will be to Michalis Pouris. The global energy landscape will change more in next 10 years than it has changed in last 100 years, I would say. The most crucial element in this cycle of that change is, we all know, human element. So in this regard, Michalis, How well do you think our seafarers are prepared or trained to handle these changes?
My short answer to this is we are not ready, we are not trained. But of course, this is widely known to the audience and to the majority of the people involved in shipping. So let's see why this and how we can target this. As we can understand, the human element is a key element in shipping in general. I haven't seen ship sailing without people. I haven't seen a shipping company fully digitalized, automated with, let's say, 1 or 2 employees. Means that shipping is still depending on the human element. Taking this into account and also bring into the equation the fact that we are rushing towards a clean energy. This is an unknown technology to us, and we are rushing just to catch up the targets. This means that our people are not ready. Still, the technology is unknown, so how people can be familiar with something that is still unknown. And the fact of this pressure from all outside shipping towards shipping for passing through the green technology create a severe environment, especially for our seafarers. If we take into consideration now other minor parameters like cultural differences, shipping is a multicultural industry, educational differences, requirements that are not existing, especially in the term of digitalization or handling electronically things, as the previous panel was mentioning. This is creating really a dangerous environment towards the future. We are not ready. We need to be ready, but somehow this should be regulated also. Currently, if you reach a chief engineer license or master license, very few trainings are still pending, most probably renewals. There is nothing else to learn. And this is the tricky part, I believe, because technology is moving, green energy is moving. Those two, let's say, pillars are closely related, and this is somehow we need to be able to control them to move forward. Just a very simple example, during COVID, the captain was asking junior officer to show him how teams work. So you can understand, in terms of technology, the gap between especially the young generation and the oldest.
Very good. Let me further ask you, Michalis. You are absolutely right, but if you look at before COVID, the Teams, the Zoom, all these applications were there in the system.
Yep.
But we all, forget the ships, even the officers, in the ashore people, we all were not so much familiarized or using it.
Yep.
But today, we are using. If you look at now the ACDIS on board the ships, I left sailing almost 20 years back. We were all on the paper, but today, everything is dual ACDIS, and we all need to adapt, and we all need to change, and we need to learn and move on. So probably if you think, if that is a contest we take, the training, the familiarizations and all, when the technology is ready, we need to have some driver forces where the crew training need to kick in, let it be through STCW or anything. What is your take in that?
Actually, we should be able to control the innovation. So not introducing fast new things on board without being able to test them and ensure that this is the way forward. Because we still have humans that they need to catch up. So if we just introduce a new technology and after 2 or 3 years we phase them out, then it's not worth the investment from the owner side, it's not worth the effort from the seafarer side to adapt something that is moving forward. and this environmental rush, I'm afraid this will be a challenge that need to cope with this one.
Absolutely. Like, thank you so much. Thanks, very true, and thanks for sharing this. I'm going to ask the next question to our next panelist, Mr. Elias Yfantis. But for the audience, I really want you to interact. So after this fourth question, I really want if people can raise the hand and ask at least a couple of questions to feel, so that our panelists feel that you all are interacting and engaged here. So the next question, transiting into green energy, should be treated as a sprint race and not, or should not be treated as sprint race, but it should be marathon. So Elias, what is in your opinion, how can we ensure that the progress is consistent and sustainable?
Well, thank you for the invitation and for the question. To make things clear, we have two positions. On the one hand, we have the regulatory bodies. We have the IMO, EU, and we have some targets for 2030 and 2050. We have the so-called market-based measures. It's a rather gentle expression, because I would say penalties. These are incentives, of course. And on the other hand, we have the facts, we have the figures. The history already proved, the recent decades already past proved that this is a marathon. And I could say that this is also a decathlon, because decarbonization is an extremely complex problem to be solved. It requires an interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach. The reference point we have is that digitalization is an enabler, no doubt on this. We had great speakers today with great presentations. So we now have a key player. Digitalization is a key player. And digitalization will continue to be a key player as a vital part of the fourth IR. But at the end of the day, in order to address the requirements and the challenges of decarbonization, to meet the targets by 2030 and 2050, we need new fuels. And at that point, since there is no silver bullet, I believe that we all agree that there is no silver bullet. We need research, we need innovation, we need technology development. And I'm not sure that we are ready to provide solutions. And as having two hats, the academic and the research, I could say that when you start a project, no one can secure that you will have a positive result. And beyond that, nobody and nothing can secure that you could have a commercialized result. So I believe that first we have to find solutions that could be applicable, validated, secure, available, and at a reasonable cost. For example, we're dealing with ammonia, but ammonia is toxic. Ammonia is a high risk to handle material. But there is a force, there is a stress to work with different solutions. So the research community, even the ownerships and the manufacturers have to deal even with ammonia. So on the one hand, I believe that there is a long way to decarbonization. I believe that in order to address the challenges by 2030 and 2050, we have to violate the second law of thermodynamics, which is impossible. And I strongly believe that we have to invest in research. We have to invest in solutions already proved beneficiary and giving answers to questions. And on the second part, I would like to add that we need to invest in human capital, in human element, because without human element, we cannot apply all these extremely interesting solutions to the shipping industry.
Thank you. Thank you, Elias. Thanks for sharing, quite insightful. I'll now, I would like to ask the audience if, yes, Christophermus, please.
We have received a question. It relates to the carbon capture technology. So the question is, what does the panel feels about carbon capturing for the intermediate period until the fuel mix becomes more clear?
So who
That's
wants
the
to take
question
the
open for-
question? Yes, Mr. Elias.
Well, at CMMI, it's a young organization starting back 2019. So the first question we had to answer was where to invest. I strongly believe that decarbonization is a problem of optimization. So first of all, you have to decide to invest human capital, money, etc., in a narrow area so as to go ahead. We have examined a lot of solutions, and carbon capture was one of these solutions. Actually, there is a running project within CMMI funded by the EU, which, among other solutions, also examines onboard carbon capture and syngas utilization, etc., etc. Well, it's just one of the weapons we have to examine in order to dot. Because I do not believe that it is the silver bullet we have to find, to invent, but at the end of the day is one of the decades of solutions already provided and must be examined. I'm not so optimistic regarding carbon capture.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, any questions if you want to raise the hand, if it is not online. Okay, meantime, okay. I see, sorry, I did not see. Yes, please. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Michalis. I'm naval active, marine engineer, and also master course in design engineering. I have listened carefully all the speakers and thanks all of you for very nice and very informative presentations. For me, as an expert working 28 years in the maritime industry and shipbuilding industry, I have seen that there is a big contradiction. We order copy-paste vessels in China with low quality and with no good design, that from this build condition, they are not energy efficient. And also, the crew quality has been downgraded in the course of time. I remember in the past times when the captains, for example, in Greek shipping companies and the chief engineers and the lower rating were Greeks. And now we see that it can be any nationality with doubtful quality. So there is a big contradiction how we want to make a Fiat be like a Mercedes, for me. So it reminds me some people having low quality cars, second-hand cars that try to make renovation and tuning and become like a Ferrari. So what are the comments of the speakers on this? How we compensate this? Because there are no, how can I say, shipbuildings in Europe or in higher quality shipyards. So there are not good designs. 90% of the naval architects work only in managerial posts in shipping companies without designing anything. So what happens on this?
Very good question. Thank you so much. Thank you. Who wants to take? Okay, Frank.
I'm sorry to say I completely disagree with what you say. The quality of a ship's design has nothing to do with the country of build. What I can tell you is that we did a pretty good benchmarking of the ships that we have under our management. I can tell you that some Chinese ones that we built ourselves are some of the top ranking ones. I think second post or something like that. Ultimately, everything has to do with how involved you are in the design process and how well you supervise the building of this. It falls down to the owner ultimately when they're making the investment decision. We cannot say, we cannot ultimately be nostalgic about building in Norway and in Germany and what have you. That's never going to happen again. And the designs can be, the good designs can be built anywhere, but people have to be involved throughout. And I appreciate that sometimes you go to Japan and ultimately you just buy something where it's ultimately a resale. You have absolutely no option to participate in the design process or even the supervision of it. These are exceptions. So ultimately all I can say is that you have to be involved and you have to have competent people involved throughout the process. Yeah. But
Okay, so yeah, so in continuation, yes, that's true. If the ship is being built in China and the makers are involved and the owners have futuristic approach, probably they will install whatever that, whichever tier is going to be. So it all depends. Apart from the ship designing, there are a lot of equipments which will contribute to the optimization and the decarbonation. So it all depends on the mean consumption, which is mean propulsions and the oxygen engines. So let's, I think that's fair view on that. Okay, next question, please. Okay, Michalis has something.
If I may add on this specific thing, it's at the end of the day, it's coming back. It's coming down to what you get is what you paid, regardless the country of manufacture, regardless the country of origin of the seafarers. You may have, let's say, a poor country that if you invest on these seafarers can be one of the best seafarers you can have. So at the end of the day, it's, as I said, what you pay is what you get. If you pay a cheap ship and a cheap human element, then at the end of the day, you get a cheap combination of it.
Thank you so much for a very good question. Thank you. The kick is start. Anyone on this? Yes? Okay.
I'm Nikos Stefanis from Kongsberg Digital. It was 3 or 4 days ago that Mr. Prokopiou, in one of a conference during the Cyprus Maritime Week, mentioned that oil will be here for the next 100 years, and all these new fuels, ammonia, methanol, and hydrogen, it's a science fiction. And as Frank mentioned before, it's a risk to invest on those new fuels for new buildings. So I would like to hear your perspective.
I think this question, Elias, yes.
I believe that I have already answered your question, because I said that now the entire cluster is under a huge experiment. So experiment is something we are carrying out in order to have a result. We are far away from the result. And of course, I really understand the ownership, because if there is a commercial off-the-shelf solution, he can buy this solution. But commercial off-the-shelf means, as I said, available, validated, approved, safe, and on the shelf. We are not talking about a small percentage of new buildings that are fully promoted. So hydrogen-driven ship, excellent. Ammonia-driven vessel, excellent. We have 2, 3, 4, 10, but what about the global fit? I truly and I fully understand what Mr. Prokopiou said, because we do realize the figures. In another occasion, I said that during the last 50 years, we spent $1 trillion globally in order to improve renewable energy sources. What is the achievement? Globally, we cover 6.7% of the entire demand. What does that mean? If we follow the projections of EU, what is the amount of money we need to spend, and what is the time we need to spend waiting for the renewable energy sources to be enough in order to cover our needs? So this is the reason I believe Mr. Prokopiou knows very well, of course, that there is no commercial solution to buy it and apply in his ships.
Yeah, thank you, Michalis.
Plus, actually, this was one of my concerns during my discussion here, that we are rushing. Let's think unconventionally. Why oil is bad? As soon as oil is contained, and we are focusing on the emission side, means if we are optimizing our processes, if we are optimizing the way we are using oil, and at the end of the day, we make sure that whatever we pollute, we do something in advantage of the globe, I don't see any reason why we stop using oil. Let's say if a ship owner is investing let's say in compensation of what his or her ship is introducing to the globe, let's say a solar park that is compensating, let's say, the CO2 that has been released by 1 or 2 or 3 ships of the fleet, I don't see any reason why we are so afraid of oil. Oil is here for many years, and if it's not oil, it's something else that will, under combustion, will produce energy. And again, combustion means CO2.
Thank you, yes, Frank, yes. What a question, all panelists, yeah, very good. Give a good round of applause to Nikos, please. Well done, well done.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to build a pattern here, but I do disagree again. So I do think that oil will be here for a while, but that is because there are so many derivatives that come from it that are needed in manufacturing for quite some time. It will be like that, or plastics and what have you. So oil is needed for the chemical industry for the time being, but we have to do better. We have to move away from fossil fuels, and compensating for pollution, whether it is greenwashing or whether this is investing in alternative energy sources, green energy and what have you, is not enough. We have to stop the problem at its source, and that is not drawing more oil from the ground wherever we can. So I do understand Mr. Prokopiou's frustration. I do see where everyone is coming from, but we have to do better at the end of the day. And it's unclear where our industry is going. It's unclear which fuel we're going to be going forward. I do think that there's going to be a lot of investment in drop-in fuels like synthetic oil at the end of the day, gas to liquids and what have you. But yes, at the end of the day, it's difficult for us right now. And as engineers, as managers, we basically have to find solutions to whatever comes our way.
Thank you, Frank. Demetres.
I would like to address this question from the research and development point of view, meaning that, in few words, the race is on, right? This kind of transition now opens up the appetite from different technologies to proven against oil. So it's not only the matter of alternative fuels, it's the matter of energy density. Who's going to get there first? Either as a fuel, batteries, nuclear, other kind of energy sources, it's the race. So whoever proves that the energy density can be reached with the minimum environmental impact, that will be the winner of that race.
Thank you. Yes, Elias.
Just a comment. On the one hand, we have our strong wishful thinking, of course. On the other hand, we have the facts. So in order for us to have solutions with hydrogen, we need green hydrogen. Otherwise, we have to be trapped in the same way. So we already know that we need to calculate the well-to-wake path. Okay, so I know that if I burn hydrogen here, I produce water, everything is clean, everything is exciting, but how do I produce hydrogen? How do I transport? How to store hydrogen? And what is the environmental impact of all these processes? Okay, this is the reason we had one step back. For example, we accepted LNG and LPG because there is no way out on the one hand. And there are also some jokes now and in the coming years, shipping is going to pay penalty for consuming oil and producing CO2, and at the same time, shipping will transport coal in order to address all these issues with the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, etc., etc. That's the reality.
Thank you, Elias. Okay, last question, anyone, before we move on? Sorry? Time for, yeah, okay, I think we are in between of lunch and probably one of the last presentations, so we need to wind up. I have last question for Elias. Elias, we have this LNG had been talked about, one of the most suitable alternative. What's your take on that, if you can give for a couple of minutes?
Well, LNG has been proven theoretically and experimentally that is a bridging solution. And it has some marginal advantages. We have tried and partially succeed in reducing methane slip. So I believe that is truly a bridging fuel.
Thank you, thank you. So since we are coming to the end, just to recap, we have talked about vessel performance platforms, training of the crew, need of our to sincerely look for the solutions for challenges that we have, well-to-wake path that we talk about with Elias, control the innovation, alternative fuels, availability, validated, approved, safe, bridging the gaps with crew trainings, and getting technology ready for our future shifts towards the path of decarbonization. So these are the few things that I had recapped. So on that note, let's close this session if all agree. So may I request you all to please put a big round of applause to our esteemed panelists who really giving us all insight. And once again, give a big round of applause to our organizer, Arnes and CSN, please. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.